Our talk about climate crisis and commons infrastructure. And I'm really happy that I can speak about that topic. I have also found a couple of companions talking about that subject. I would like to introduce you to Irene from Gattaca and Irene from Yolocom. They will have part in that session as well. So basically, we will go through a presentation, which is done by me. And we will then have some lightning talks about the software we're working on. So you will hear more in my presentation, and of course, much more when we go into that, that kind of software, what we're building. And then we will have a fireside chat to answer questions you have from all the presentations you've seen. But basically, you are free to ask questions in the chat here in Zoom whenever you want. And one of us will always have a close eye on the question there and kind of throw them in if they're suitable for that particular moment, that they should be answered right away, or if they should wait a little to be answered maybe later on in the fireside chat or something like that. So basically, feel free to ask any question you wanna have answered, and we're close small group. So basically, I'm sure we can answer all the questions, and the more you ask, the more we can talk about it. So let's jump into the presentation. Just a second. Share my screen with you. So, yes, so my name is Thomas Zeinzinger. I'm from the Lab 10 Collective. We are mainly based in Austria and work on climate-related issues in the area of blockchain technology or decentralized technology. And as I said, so I'm really happy to be able to talk to you about such an urgent and pressing issue, what we all have. And let me jump into the problem what we have. So basically, I think that's not really new to anybody. We have increased our carbon emissions since the Second World War dramatically. We are, including land use, we are above 40 billion tons of emissions, and this was especially during the last decades mainly fueled through the increased living standard in Asia. We also see that basically Africa is although the population growth is substantial and growing a lot, is still very small. India is still very small compared to the population. So we really see a massive increase in CO2 emissions. And we also see that basically only when we have a major crisis, we also see a dip in that curve. So therefore, I put there the chart for the corona pandemic right now. So basically, you see, okay, now we managed to have a dip in that curve, but usually if you see dips, there was an economical crisis. It was not because of anything else. So to be clear, what kind of dimension what we have. So if we want to reduce carbon emissions to a level where we reach the Paris Climate Agreement to reach 1.5 degrees or at least below 2 degrees increase, then we have a very, very steep decline to do. Actually, we have to do such a reduction in carbon emissions as we currently have because of the corona pandemic. So we have this kind of 8% estimated for 2020, and we have to do those 8% year on year. So basically that's the challenge. The tools what we have are actually here, and also the mindset change is also here. It's becoming better and better. So we have a lot of renewable energy sources. So the sun is sending in less than 10 minutes all the energy what humans consume in a year. So we have electric mobility in different ways. We have a better awareness that basically if we are increasing transport on a global level in that scale as we did during the last couple of decades, we will have a problem. So there is more localization as well. And also there is a diet change, at least in the Western countries, to move away a little bit more from heavy meat kind of diets. So all kind of positive developments. Unfortunately, we have to say, we know that since 40 years. So since 40 years, we are actually looking or knowing that climate change is an issue. Presidents talked about it. Highest politicians came together already 25 times talking about it. And unfortunately, the only thing what we see is an increase in carbon dioxide emissions and, of course, corresponding temperature increase. There is a question, why is that? And the question is rather easy to answer. If you look at companies, they strive for a profit. They want to increase the shareholder value for their owners. So basically, managers are hired to have a good profit margin, that they reduce costs, increase revenue for the company. A former CEO from Exxon, he said, I'm not deliberately hurting my profit line. So basically, what's clear if you look at that is they strive for profit. They also strive for having a monopoly. So basically, a monopoly is something great for a big company because investors love it. The power what you have with a monopoly is to reap in more profits, of course. So that's because that's the goal. And additionally, if you look at the more and more kind of data-driven economy, we see that we have a lot of data silos within big corporations. So old companies were heavily depending on physical infrastructure. Newer monopolies are heavily depending on data and data structures, what they have. But nevertheless, this data is kept in that massive silo of whoever you wanna call from the internet companies. So basically, we know we have a need for climate action, and we have basically two actors mostly visible. So this is corporations and state. Corporations, as we talked, move when they see profit. And they also move when they see threat. And threat comes either from a state by regulation, so saying basically that you have a regulation which tells you you have to pay something for your emissions, for example, as we have. Or you see something like Tesla here on that picture. So basically threatening the bottom line or the profits of other car companies. And the other car companies, there is a nice example from Germany. So basically, every year they were getting more than 100 million euros in grants, but and told the politicians that they're ahead of everybody else within all the electrical mobility. And then Tesla came along and basically kind of brought that very much into question, and now they are frantically trying to keep pace with Tesla on the electric car sector, and that's clear. So basically, Tesla is likely hurting their bottom line, so they are moving. And on the other side, you have the state. So the state is basically has two kind of roles. One is regulation, and the other one is kind of incentivation. So sometimes they are having fines on things and so on. So basically, what we can see now is looking back at the curve, what we had in the very beginning it was not very effective so far. So there is another actor which I want to introduce to you here, and this is a rather unknown actor. It's the commons, because commons are collections of people which come together and basically do something for their community. They build wind turbines and photovoltaic kind of installations and so on. But of course, they usually don't have a charismatic leader, and they don't have a lot of money to be hailed by the media or be on the stock exchange or something like that. So basically, they're rather scattered and rather kind of dispersed, although they do very valuable work for the people which are affected in that region. And we just have to say that commons have a coordination problem. So they are hard to coordinate, and they're usually very little digitized. So basically, if you look at the digital level, they are not very well equipped. They don't have so much money, so they can't kind of invest like the big corporations and so on. So basically, they can't coordinate in a similar way as a corporation can. And the solution, what we are suggesting to this kind of problem, is actually a decentralized commons infrastructure. So if you're looking at the decentralized commons infrastructure, it has to fulfill this kind of coordination problem and solution towards kind of being better in having dispersed commons groups and communities connected together on the various kind of levels, and scaling it to the level what corporations can do. So if we break that down a little, we have a digital information layer. So the digital information layer, to make that decentralized commons infrastructure work, needs mainly three components. So one is identity, one is data, and one is money. So we will talk today mostly about identity. I don't want to jump too much into it. You will hear a lot more about self-sovereign identity. So self-sovereign identity is the decentralized version of identity. So basically you're having the ability to create your own identity, to be in control of your own identity. And Irene will talk a lot about that and give you more insight into this one. And because we don't talk about the others, I will say a couple of words there too. Data is right now often in databases. They are not kind of decentralized, but the cool thing is that basically there are a couple of protocols developed which also allow that you can decentralize data, and you could imagine that as a kind of a super cloud. So basically everybody's using the same protocol, the same way of storing data. And if you are using that super cloud as a commons cooperative or whatever kind of your organization form is, you can make it possible that others can use that data as well, because you're basically on the same platform. You're having nobody in control of that platform. You're using a decentralized protocol and you're storing your data there, but you stay in full control of your data. And then there is the money aspect. And I think everybody has heard about blockchain applications and blockchain solutions. You can also decentralize money. So the most known are Bitcoin or Ethereum, but due to the invention of Ethereum, you have the ability to generate whatever kind of currency you can envision. You can make your personal currency, you can make a commons currency, you can make a regional currency, you can say that currency has certain conditions to be used. So basically, you can do that, and you don't need any access control to make that currency, because that happens again on decentralized networks, and that decentralized networks they have free access, so you don't have to apply for getting granted access to this data structure. So the important part is, if you want to connect identity, data, and money, you need wallets. So if you do that on a digital level, you need wallets to do all those kind of connections between the different kind of data structures. And the nice part about it is also, because now your data is basically on that super cloud, you can use AI to have a learning algorithm. So that learning algorithm can be trained, that can directly go to the data, or you have some kind of anonymized data which trains the algorithm. But at the end of the day, you're still, while you're having a decentralized infrastructure, you're getting all these kind of nice benefits what the big digital companies actually get. So you can do actually the same thing on a commons level. So this is the digital information layer, and there is also a social organization layer. So you have individuals, so basically individuals like you and me doing some whatever kind of economic activity. You're having communities, some kind of aggregations, some kind of association or a cooperative or something like that. And of course you have IoT devices, so devices which are connected to the internet and which are very vital in a way that you are able to fight something like climate change with devices out there. So those devices can be intelligent, they can be economically active, then they need an identity and so on. So basically you need all that kind of things as well for those devices, not just for communities and not just for individuals. And that's again connected through wallets. So this is like something which is connecting all them together. So for example, if you're coordinating a cooperative or a association, you might have some votings or something like that. So basically you need something which makes it simple and easy for people to interact. So combining those two is basically leading to a clear understanding, so that you are having this digital information layer, you have this social organization layer. And if you combine them together, in the middle, you have those wallets which are needed to do all that kind of stuff and to make it efficient. And talking about efficiency means that we have to be on eye level with corporations. And if we want to be on eye level with corporations, we need this kind of startup kind of improvement of 10x for cost and speed to be taken serious. And that's easily possible. So once you have seen these decentralized networks in action, and if you use it daily, as I, for example, do, so basically we are much in the crypto space as well. So I can't imagine how a bank account, this is such a strange structure once you know how you can do it differently. So therefore, 10x cost reduction or speed increase is just easy achievable once you go to that kind of structure. So coming back to urgent climate action need, once we have the commons on the same level as the other two, we can speed up the transition towards renewable energy and carbon dioxide reduction, as well as basically improving our agricultural space as well. And as I pointed out, so wallets play a crucial role within that kind of ability to act efficiently in the common space with a decentralized commons infrastructure. And the wallets we're going to present are Yolocom, Minerva, and Gattaca. As mentioned, Irene Adamski is talking about Yolocom. she will also give you more insight into self-sovereign identity and how that works. Then Irene Hernández will talk about Gattaca and give you also a demonstration. So basically, you will see more in action how this works. And I will present Minerva, which is our wallet, and let you peek in also a little bit into the crypto space in a demo what I'm doing. So that's for me now. So basically, that's the intro presentation. I don't know if there is already a question which we should answer, or if we should directly move into Irene's presentation. So thank you very much. I stop my sharing.
Doesn't seem that we have any questions yet, so maybe we can jump to another presenter.
Good. So Irene, go ahead.
I will. So just let me know if you can see my screen and if you can see it in full screen.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Then thank you also from my side for everyone joining us today. And thank you, of course, especially to Thomas for the first introduction. And I'm going to give you a very quick introduction into the slightly more details of self-sovereign identity, and then also, of course, what it is we are doing at Yolocon. So without further delay, let me pick up where Thomas left off with the commons infrastructure. So commons, as most of you probably know, also refers to basically infrastructures we are all using. And we are all using different things. We are all, most of us employed and using office infrastructures. We are using gyms or swimming pool memberships. We are using possibly payback options. We are using food delivery, possibly car sharing. And so all these different aspects of our life within the digital sphere become digital infrastructures we are all able to use. And this is great that we are able to do that, because it makes things, I don't have to explain this to anyone here, so much easier. Best example, even within a pandemic, we are all able to meet here at this great conference. But what this also means is that while things get optimized and easier in the digital sphere, we are also racking up data. And one part of our data is all the different accounts we are accruing. And in the physical world, those who can see my camera still, you have your wallet where you can keep all these different account numbers, membership cards, key cards, and whatever selected and with you on your person. Digitally, we aren't able to do that, and it becomes, I think all of us know this, with all the password memorizing and things, it can be slightly annoying. So we have come to a solution for that in the meantime, where we are basically using the services of different companies to just keep it easier. So I don't have to memorize 146 passwords. I can ask Facebook or Google or LinkedIn or one for my specific country, in this case Germany, to do that for me. And this, of course, makes things easier again. But as Thomas has mentioned, this also creates silos. So Google is able to say, you will get to work with this food delivery option, for example, but not with the other one, because we don't have a relationship with them. And for Facebook, it is so basically they are holding all my cards. That can even be banking, my personal identity, where I went to school, where I have a membership. And they have all these cards and give me mine when I need it, which is very, very good. But when I'm not using it, I don't know what they are doing. And we've all heard enough about data leaks to know that it's not always benign what they are doing with our data. And so now the idea is, if we are used to having all of our information with us and protected by ourselves and no one else in the physical world, why is that not possible to do in the digital one? And this is where Thomas was basically mentioning earlier. What if we had digital wallets on our smartphones? We carry it around with us anyway. It has our phone number. It has most of our pictures and things like that, and login information. Why can't we have all the different cards we have in our physical wallets in our digital wallets as well? And this is what Gattaca, Lab 10 and Yellowcom are presenting today, that we are developing along with a lot of other companies in the world, which Irene Hernández will speak about slightly later. We are developing these kind of digital wallets. And of course, now the question is, what are we actually doing differently compared to the wallets and services you already know, like Google and Facebook? And this is where this presentation comes in. We are talking about self-sovereign identity. And self-sovereign means that you are the one in control and no one else has access to your data further than you want them to have. Self-sovereign identity is a concept that has been developed in development for 20 years now, and it's based on these 10 principles. So to prove existence, so that basically no fraud can happen, that you are in control, that you also consent to where your data is stored, that it's a minimum amount of data that needs to be shared and stored. The data should be protected, it should be transparent, and it should be portable and interoperable to ensure that there are no silos, no monopolies or oligopolies. And so what can that look like? And here's a very rudimentary scheme to show that. Basically, what self-sovereign identity means is something some of you will have heard and remember from school and political classes. It's basically a division of power. So if you have a digital wallet in the middle as a neutral hardware ground, so to speak, you have three different actors in this space. One is the identity holder, which is all of us. And then basically the most easy things, for example, a banking card or an ID card needs to be issued from an authority that is trusted. Sticking with the ID card, your municipality or your government will issue you one. But really, the issuer shouldn't, and it's what we know from the physical world, they don't really care how you use it. They care that you take care of it and that you inform them when it's lost or if something happens. But really, once I have my ID card or my bank card, the issuer themselves shouldn't basically be that knowledgeable about who I show it to. For example, if I show my age, they don't need to know what I do with that. And on the other side, a service really doesn't need to know all the information that I have stored in my wallet. Basically, for example, if I want to buy a bottle of wine when the pandemic is over to drink glasses with a couple of friends and family members, then what a person in a grocery store needs to know is that I am, in fact, of age. But they don't need to know where I live. They don't need to know on what day I was born. They don't need to know where I was born, my nationality. They really just need to know that I am of age. And so this is where the consent comes in. So all the data I need throughout my day and life is stored in my wallet. But the service only gets the one information they actually need, and they can trust that information without seeing anything else because they know that it's been issued by, basically they know the issuer and they can work with that. So basically the issuer knows that they are still the authority. Nobody is disputing, for example, that governments have basically the final say on who is one of their citizens. But after that, once they have done their duty of issuing an authorized document, there is no further involvement. And the service only needs verified information and they don't need to store that information. They really just only need to see, okay, the same way I show my identity card in a store, they see, okay, this person is obviously authorized to have an identity card and obviously is of age. So everything else can be handled between these two people directly. And this is the rough idea. You have an authority saying this is basically a trusted information, and the services can say, okay, I can verify that this information and this person is trustworthy. And so, as Thomas has mentioned, we have a decentralized, or we can establish a decentralized identity system because the trust can be decentralized. I don't need, basically, they don't need to communicate directly. I don't need to go with an issuer to show this is proof that I am trustworthy. I can take the digital proof of this trust with me and show it to those who need to see it without actually having to give them all my data all the time to make sure this that they know they can trust the information I give them. So this trustless decentralized system that allows us to keep sovereignty over our own data is what we are actually trying to achieve. because we know the digital world is going to need digital identity to show this proof and establish this kind of trust when we can't meet face to face. But we also want to make sure that the data itself sticks with us. And to round this up, how do we establish self-sovereign identity? All three of us, the Minerva Wallet, the Gattaca one, and the Yellowcom, are pursuing the same goal, going about slightly different ways. What we are offering at Yellowcom is a modular SSI stack for network agnostic ecosystems, which basically means that we have different layers. So the anchoring layer can be a blockchain or DLT network. It can be different kind of, for example, in-house large corporate storage layers, or it can be a new ways of decentralized documentation of digital identities like carry. Then you have an SSI protocol, which is open source and W3C compliant, meaning the currently most trusted standard in building these kind of SSI wallets. We have our own SDK, which is open source. So those of you who are interested in building something themselves, feel free to download it on GitHub and go to work. And for everyone else, be that, for example, you as a user downloading the Yellowcom Smart Wallet, be it an issuer saying a municipality or an e-government saying, I want to interact with a smart wallet, be it a service like a food deliveries can interact, as well as, of course, other smart wallets and SSI wallets like Gattaca, they can interact as well. And this is where we are technologically. And you saw the easy scheme and technology triangle earlier. By now, it looks slightly more sophisticated. So in this case, you as a customer, a natural person, would have a Yellowcom wallet. And for example, your municipality as a service providing you, for example, with a government document form you can download already verified with your information. You can send the digital identity information back and forth. In an encrypted way, your data can be locked up on a blockchain DLT layer to be verified. It can then also be verified by those services needing it on the interplanetary file system, and it goes back and forth. And what is actually happening in the end is that all you are providing is the information that your information can be trusted, and the service can verify that the information can be trusted by independent parties without ever having access to more information than actually needed. And that is the long and short of it. So for those technically minded, what we offer is the library and full technical documentation. We have the SDK, a generic backend for you to use, interfaces, universal resolvers. And for those who are not technologically so much interested, you can just download it and use it. And basically what you get is you download it, you bring the information you want, like your birth date and birthplace, or your phone number, and then with those services offering it, you can then exchange so-called verifiable credentials, which are basically these kind of cards that we know. And what happens is that what actually all of the information that is shown to the outside world is who was the authority, the issuer who said, yes, this person is actually Irene, in my case, for example, living in Berlin. So the authority is known, who actually is the identity holder can be verified. You can see, has this been tampered with? Is this for information trustworthy? And you can also see, is it still relevant or has it possibly expired? And that is all the information that is seen by the outside world. And now to just quickly wrap up, we have a couple of use cases already. For example, we worked with one of the e-government services in Germany to validate e-government services. We have been working with Deutsche Telekom on a bike sharing scheme. We have also been working in the Netherlands with the municipality of Antwerp, where citizens registered with the city as opposed to tourists could get a discount when using the local swimming pool. And we are also involved with a pilot project within Germany where digital identities are going to see a rollout nationwide between 2021 and 2024. And that is where we are at the moment. So thank you for bearing with me and for taking slightly longer. If you have any questions, happy to get them. And otherwise, I'm also very much looking forward to Irene's presentation about Gattaca. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene and Thomas, for your earlier talk. I'm seeing a question in the panel, so I'll take advantage of that question to start my talk. Let me share my screen. Okay, you should be seeing my screen now. Good. Thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Irene Hernández, and I'm the founder at Gattaca. What we talked at the beginning is that climate crisis is a reality, and that there are not only corporations and government responsible or capable of solving this problem. We have the commons, new agents, associations of individuals that can also play an important role. Now, in order for these commons to actually cooperate, what they need is a commons infrastructure, a means by which they can communicate and transact. Now, when we talk about infrastructure, one critical piece to enable those transactions is digital identities. And this ties us with how to implement digital identities in such a way that actually contributes to climate change. And the answer, the trend, is by building decentralized identities, also known by self-sovereign identities, in which ID wallets are definitely a linchpin for decentralized identities. So let me perhaps start my talk about the market, saying, okay, what is this about decentralized identities? If you've been listening so far, you've been hearing that we're essentially trying to change the authentication architecture of the internet, literally, something that has been on for decades. And this is definitely a super challenging and ambitious goal. Irene, Thomas, and many others are trying to make this happen. And good news is that it is already happening. How so? You may imagine. Well, this is not something that a few companies or technology startups are developing and offering to the world. It's something where many stakeholders worldwide are working on. Let me start with standards definition. I think that players in the market realized that in order to build a new authentication layer for the internet, we need to be based on standards. We need to have a common language on how this authentication layer will operate. And there are already many associations, non-for-profit organizations trying to build those standards, so much so that they already became the de facto standard because they're already being adopted by governments, policymakers, and technology providers worldwide. Now, it's not just the three of us. It's a complete ecosystem of companies worldwide. And this is just a very tiny overview of all the players that are already working on this. And the beauty is that we are working in a competition model, which eventually will turn into a truly competition model. But I think what we understood very well, and we did well as a new industry, is to understand that none of us individually could make this happen, that we had to work together. And this is why the three of us are already here, and we're working many other forums together to build decentralized identities. Now, there is a critical piece in decentralized identities, which I thought would come much later in time. And to my great and positive surprise, they're super active in the space. And those are governments and policymakers. The European Commission, as an example, has built a task force composed of the EBP, the European Blockchain Partnership, representing the individual countries, plus the European Commission working on building, on the one hand side, a European blockchain infrastructure, but also a decentralized identity layer on top. And they're defining the legal and regulatory and technical requirements to build such ecosystem at European level. And there are many countries already leading national projects in Europe. But Europe is not the only one. The Department of Homeland Security is already super actively involved in the space. In Africa, Identity for Africa is doing great work in many countries. And in Asia, we can see Japan with the financial regulator. We can see Indonesia, we can see Singapore. There are really many countries working on building a national digital identity system based on decentralized architectures, which is essential because what we want is for these identities to be unique, we don't want to have, again, 10 different decentralized identities for different use cases. We want to have one single identity. And in order to become one single identity, it has to work also in regulated industries. In those industries where those digital identities have to be legally binding, legally valid. That's why governments and policymakers are so critical in this ecosystem. And finally, there are many corporations and I would say also associations working on building standards, specifications, and on pushing in their own area the concept of decentralized identities. One example I really like is the IDB Lab that built LACchain, which would be the equivalent to EPSI in Europe, but in Latin America. And they're building the decentralized identity specifications for the LACchain network. And definitely not the only ones. So what I wanted to do with the remaining minutes is to show you an example. This truly working. We've been talking in the space for a long time about decentralized identities and how this works. And now we're starting to see real implementations, real use cases. So what I want to give you is an example of what we're doing at Gattaca. And the key message here is that decentralized identities is not only about government IDs, which those credentials are very important, but are not the only one. Now in a digital format, we can store in our wallet many other credentials that in the physical world, because of the size, the format, it's impossible to carry on with us all the time. Now we can have in our ID wallet our academic certificates, our employee card, health insurance cards, of course, our personal information, where we live, etc., etc. And another message I want to say here is that it's not only about government IDs, it's much more. Our identity is way more complex, and so is decentralized identities. As Irene was explaining, the ecosystem includes issuers and service providers. So with wallets, all technology providers are building a complete platform and technology stack that involves tools for the issuance of those verifiable credentials according to W3 consortium standards, and also tools to have this single sign-on authentication experience that we already have with the Facebook and Google Connects, but with decentralized identities. So I'm just trying to say that this is a way more complex platform that a priori you would see and feel with your ID wallet, but managing that complexity is our job. So let me quickly make a demo. So I'm mirroring here my phone, and what you're seeing here is my the ID wallet that I have installed in my phone. Biometrics is a very important part to managing your ID wallets, because we need to establish and ensure this link between the physical person and the ID wallet. So every transaction, every information sharing is signed with biometrics. So you can see that our wallet is super simple. We have a section where you can see all our credentials. I have, for instance, my student ID card. I have my ID document. I have my home address. you name it. And I also have a list of services I've authenticated myself using self-sovereign identity, using my wallet. And for each service, I can check what are the different credentials that I'm sharing with that entity and revoke that access dynamically. So how it works is, imagine that I'm a student that just graduated from a Bachelor of Science, and I want now to do a master in cybersecurity. Okay, I can apply filling a typical application, and this truly extends to every single industry. Customer onboarding, employee onboarding, provider onboarding. It's all about filling our information over and over again. Now, in regulated industries, you have to review the information. You have to really ensure that the provided information is true and accurate. And this can take time and money, which is linking to Thomas' speech, a waste of resources. Or you can apply using self-sovereign identity. Now, the user experience is as simple as scanning a QR code that I do with my wallet. So the cybersecurity university is telling me, okay, in order to apply for this master, you need to share with me this and this information from your wallet. Now I see, okay, I have all the information they request, but my academic certificate, my academic diploma, I don't have it. Okay, so I will try to get it from my original university. So if I go to my awesome technical university where I just graduated, I can even log into the virtual student campus using my ID wallet. No more usernames and passwords. Accessing, logging in, or signing up to any online platform is again as simple as scanning a QR code, reviewing what information is required to share, and clicking consent. In subsequent login processes, this consent is no longer necessary. This is just a registration. So in literally seconds, I've registered myself in the student online portal. And if I go to my profile now, I can see that I successfully graduated and I can download my academic diploma. And downloading an academic diploma, now it can be done in seconds, truly in seconds. So I just scan it with my QR code. The university in this case decides what are the authentication requirements to make sure that the diploma is downloaded to the right wallet. And upon clicking consent, the credential is stored automatically in the wallet. So as you can see now, the wallet has been downloaded, the credential has been downloaded into my wallet. If I refresh my wallet, you can see now that my academic certificate appears now in my wallet as one of the available credentials. Now, let me go back here to the Cybersecurity University and show you very quickly how applying to a new master, applying to a job, creating a new bank account, going into the doctor, to a hospital you've never been before, is really as simple as scanning a QR code, reviewing what information they require from your wallet, and clicking consent. Welcome to self-sovereign identity. So I'll give the floor back to Thomas, who will present the Minerva Wallet.
Okay, thank you very much. Very inspiring. Nice leading over to the demonstration parts. And I give you a quick view on Minerva Wallet, and because I talked already quite a lot, just a question: can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so just a couple of words. So basically, the Minerva Wallet has a slightly different kind of approach, as you've seen, and you will see if you test all three of them, they all are slightly different. So basically, what we as a kind of self-sovereign identity community actually are working very intensively on is make everything interoperable. So basically, we are building all on open standards. from the W3C. So basically the things which are we building on are open standards are followed by all of us, because that's super important that you are not having a lock-in into a particular wallet. So basically you can move on, go some other place, and you can exchange with others just as well. So basically, when I talk about Minerva, I'm talking mostly about the Minerva Wallet, which is an app. But we have a couple of other things there too. So basically, Minerva Cash is a web wallet for cryptocurrency. So you can easily move cryptocurrency just by opening a web page. And that's what I meant, to move money in a digital space on a blockchain is super easy. And we also worked on a card, an NFC card, which you can integrate into the app so that you basically can make your own bank cards, your own basically payment card, just by integrating it into your app, and you pay with the card, and basically it's deducted from your app account just easily like that. So that's basically just the introduction for Minerva itself. And we just recently did a demo with the customer. So if you're Austrian, you know who that is. And basically, what I just let me start it again. So basically, the Minerva Wallet, as you can see on your screen, is having the part for identities, the part for cryptocurrencies, integrated services, activities, what happened here, and basically some kind of settings here. So we are mostly interested in the self-sovereign identity part. And what Minerva is actually doing is you can easily add another identity just by clicking on a plus. So basically what you do is you create another identity with another unique identifier. So you can have as many identities in our understanding as you like. So basically now I have another identity, and if I want to use certain identities for certain kind of applications, I can just do so. So I can easily separate with different so-called DIDs, and you heard that from Irene. These DIDs, they are your unique identifiers, but I can use several of them, and I can import those credentials, what we also just saw, to different identities. And having such credentials, usually you have an issue. So somebody's giving you that credential. And in our case, it's a club card. Of that, that's an automotive club in Austria. So it's like ADAC in Germany, and I don't know the Spanish automotive club. So basically, they are all united under the roof of FIA. So let's just assume you're basically logging into your login area of that automotive club, and what you're asked for is what you just saw, is having to identify yourself. So identifying yourself, meaning that you need, in our case, you get a request for your personal DID in your wallet, and you say, well, I want to use my identity number 1 with that service provider. So I go here next. So I get now I get my credential. So I get my credential. So basically I'm scanning again the credential, and now I have successfully added a credential to the wallet. So what I do have, you have now my club card. as a credential within my wallet. And I can see that credential here in the credentials section, just as well as if I can open here, and I will see the credential here in the identity part. And if I want to see what it is, or you probably know that, so you're going someplace and you're having a breakdown with your car and you need to show your card. So in that particular case, we said, well, it's important that the visualization of that looks just the same as it is used in the physical space. So basically you're getting a visual as if you are having it in your normal regular analog wallet. But on the other side, so this visual can be created by everyone. So how you make it verifiable so that somebody can check that you're really in possession of that that card. And that's, again, simple, because basically you tap on it, you get the same QR code just as you have on the web page. So you can easily scan again and you can verify the signature, which is encoded in that verifiable credential. So it's a simple way for anybody to check who you are and are you basically a valid member of that particular automotive club. That's a thing which is needed in every kind of how you identify yourself. So basically, coming back to the discussion about commons infrastructure, identification is super important if you want to do any kind of cooperation with others, and if you want to streamline the whole digital kind of interaction with each other. I also want to go a little bit further regarding the money aspect. So I told you that basically this is also a crypto wallet. So basically you can also transfer cryptocurrency within that wallet. So what you see here is basically 3 different networks. So you see the Artist network, the Ethereum network, and the Luxor network. So you can just do the same as if you do for identities. You can just add another network and you get another card with another network. So you basically can handle all your currencies, what you have. If you want to get something, you go here on the QR code. So you can show somebody, again, the QR code, they are scanning it, have your address, and they send it to you. But to show you how sending cryptocurrency actually works, if you have not done it yourself yet. So this is like, I need to, just a second. I need to tap basically on send TATS, and I want to send one of them, and the receiver address I'm going to scan so that you can see basically where I'm sending. So I just scanned basically an address on another wallet, and everything I do is hit send here, and I do see basically an animation that the currency is now sent, and basically in a couple of seconds it's actually done. So basically the transaction is sent. I have now 1 cent to the other account, and you see basically the reduction of the currency. So every one of you could open a bank account within minutes and have money on his wallet just like that. So this is the thing when I say reducing speed or increasing speed and reducing costs for all that kind of infrastructure is super easy once you know how those systems work and how fast they are. And that's basically the things I wanted to get across. If we talk about climate change and commons infrastructure, we need to look out for the latest technology to make it feasible for them, that they can really play a major role within us being able to combat climate change, or them being able to combat climate change without inviting big software companies, which at the end of the day have a lock-in to the system and will drain the money out of those commons again. So basically, they need to keep that independence, and I hope that the technology will help them to stay independent, but also be on their level with the corporations and be able to make a strong contribution in our fight against climate change. So that's basically from my side. So thank you very much. So next thing is from our side, having a fireside chat.
Yeah, we have quite a few questions in the chat, and maybe we can just take them one by one.
So I remember one where I said I'm going to take that one.
Absolutely.
So maybe I start with this one. I remember. I just see that the chat kind of filled up quite a bit. There was the question from Monique regarding energy consumption of blockchain systems, and you're basically right. So if you're taking Bitcoin, for example, Bitcoin is consuming about the energy of Austria. And although the Bitcoin proponents, they always claim that it's to a large amount renewable energy, still we could use that energy for something else. So I totally agree that some of the blockchain systems consume a lot of energy. On the other side, Bitcoin is more than 10 years old. So Bitcoin was kind of invented 2008. And it was invented in a form to stay completely independent with a very kind of worldview, let's say a libertarian anarchist kind of worldview on the world. So the world has evolved, the blockchain space has evolved, and now we see a lot of blockchains using different ways of finding consensus of what is the truth. So a blockchain system is depending on a so-called consensus mechanism. And the consensus mechanism defines basically the energy consumption. And the transaction, what I showed you on the Artist network, is running on the Artist blockchain, and the Artist blockchain is using a so-called proof of stake consensus. And the Artist blockchain is tremendously more efficient than any other blockchain out there. And if you're comparing it to your regular and to put it into some context, so basically what we are doing here. So we did the calculation, and you can read it up on our page. So we did a calculation on how the energy consumption compares to Visa transactions. We did not compare to other blockchain transactions because there is no kind of comparison. The transaction on the Artist network is about 500 times less energy consuming than any Visa transaction. So if you're used to pay with Visa, bear in mind you can make 500 transactions on the Artist blockchain to consume the same amount of energy what Visa consumes. So it's actually a contribution to combat climate change to use blockchain networks, while using Visa is actually the system you should not use.
Certainly impressive numbers. I think the only thing I want to add there is that what I think you also saw, Thomas is completely right by saying that the energy consumption issue is of course an issue with DLT, but there are different generations, and it's one of the issues that younger, more modern blockchain solutions usually bypass by, as you mentioned, using different kind of base technologies and different kind of concepts. But also SSI wallets do not have to be anchored on a blockchain. So even if there are other concerns for whatever reason, there are ways to do the anchoring.
Sorry.
To do the anchoring with alternative systems. So for those who are worried for whatever reason about the blockchain use, there are ways around that. The important thing here is that basically the self-sovereign aspect is much more prevalent than the blockchain use itself. Apologies. I would also be interested if Irene has something to add to that.
Yeah, thanks, Irene. I guess the overall concern that the mass or general public has about DLTs is what we all can hear in the media. Yeah, sure. It has a lot of, it wastes a lot of energy. I would build upon what Irene said, that the Bitcoin network is not the only one that exists. There are new generations of DLTs. The ecosystem has become increasingly complex and rich, and not only energy consumption but also throughput are two of the main issues that next generation blockchains are already solving. Circling back to what Thomas said, it's a matter of how many times do you want to store something. Imagine in current centralized networks where nobody trusts no one. A bank has its own ledger with its own truth that has to match with the truth of another bank. And this information is replicated n times because no one trusts no one. So in the end, you are having one single data replicated X amount of times, yes, because no one could have a common infrastructure. So I think the critical line of thinking here is, what if we could store that data only once? The energy consumption of storing that data would be divided by those X times, which is the true beauty of how to solve climate change through a commons infrastructure.
Okay, there is another question towards Irene regarding Gattaca and the mobile clients, if it's open source, and if yes, where Jan can read more about it.
Yeah, we were chatting, John and I, through the private channel. As a general answer, the answer is no, our wallet is not open source, but we are working on open APIs. What we're doing is to work on interoperability at lower layers with very different fronts. On the one hand side, we detached our complete architecture from the DLT or any other infrastructure layer so that it could operate. And those APIs are open so that anyone could build upon them. And we're leading also an interoperability group to lead standards on assorted different interfaces that connect the wallet so that everyone could, like other providers could interact with our wallet, we could interact with other wallets, and so as to maximize the user experience. And okay, I have the wallet of my choice, but then I really don't care what wallet provider or identity provider this counterpart is choosing. So that interoperability is truly important, and that is our current focus.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, seconding that.
Yeah, Irene, you already said basically what in your case is open source, right? So
yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
There was also another question which I think is also very important to pick up again. I think also from Monique, who might have joined slightly later. But was asking again about the connection between all the identity talks we've been giving and the original topic of climate action. And I think what is very important to keep in mind here to make the link between these issues clearer is that what actually constitutes effective and efficient climate action. And I think something that all of us can instinctually feel and know, which Thomas has also shown in the initial presentation, is that the fundamental issue is that we need a decentralized approach. If we wait basically to have a consensus globally if it happens, it's going to be great, but it's going to take immense amounts of time. And if it never happens, then how do we proceed on these issues? And so we all know this, that things can go a lot further if we are doing it all at the same time. So even if we take small steps, but everyone does, then we can usually reach far larger goals and have more impact than if we wait for one single push in one direction. And if we keep that in mind as the base node, then it becomes clearer that decentralization brings its own complete host of issues. Thomas has shown that one of the issues is, how do you handle the financing of decentralized approaches if you do not have one single backer like a country? And my background, for example, is in the energy sector. And I don't know if enough of within the audience, or Monique herself, who I don't think was able to stay until this moment, but renewable energies are great for very many different reasons. But one drawback they have is that they have a limit of what they can produce in energy in a single turn, which makes them slightly different from nuclear power plants or from coal power plants. And that is one of the issues. So you have a smaller scale, but you need more of it in order to have actual climate action and reduce carbon emissions. So what we have seen, and I think all of the countries currently represented in the chat at the moment, we see a lot of wind turbines, we see a lot of solar panels and things like that. So you have a decentralized energy infrastructure, and that needs to be interconnected, and that needs to be coordinated. So the question is always, how can we produce the right amounts of energies at the right time of the right quality, and how do we check on that? And I could go into a completely different talk right now for that, but just to state what Irene and Thomas have both shown, that you need to verify that it's actually green energy, and that the people who have actually invested in that energy get the money back. For example, if you have it in your backyard or on your roof, a solar panel, you want to be recompensated. And even if you are a complete philanthropist, you want to make sure that your energy reaches the people, your neighbors, the community that needs it the most. And in order to verify all these connections and have the data be identifiable and verifiable, that is where the entire digital identity issue comes in. And of course, the question of who controls the data and who is able to determine how to use it. And that is maybe a very quick rundown about climate action needs to be decentralized, and decentralization needs commons infrastructure. And for that, we need trust. And that is where identity comes in.
Right. Let me jump into this one, because basically that's something that maybe did not come across. So basically, what we're currently preparing in all the European countries, based on the European Clean Energy Package, so-called energy communities. So in all the countries, the national governments, they have to implement, based on the Clean Energy Package of European Union, within the next year, that energy communities can form. Energy communities there are two energy communities. There are citizen energy communities and renewable energy communities. And those two sorts of communities means that people can connect together and exchange energy among them. So for the first time in basically every country, it will be allowed that you sell some power you produced with your PV on your roof to your neighbor. And if you're saying, okay, you're forming now a 20 people association where you come together as an energy community, and you're selling to your neighbors, or the neighbors selling among each others, we definitely know that this is renewable energy, so you don't have to prove it anymore. It's clear where the energy comes from. And the other thing is you need to coordinate this one, and you make that coordination as simple as possible. And if you want to make it as simple as possible, you're ending up with digital means. So you need to identify the participants within that energy community. You need to identify the devices in that energy community. You need to measure all the data, which is basically exchanged, so that you're at the end of the day can exchange money between the people. So this is super important that we have there a digital infrastructure for connecting all those people with the possibility, which was not possible, let's say, some time ago. I'm a little older than most of you, or than everybody likely. So basically, in my childhood, it was just not feasible. So you made warm water, but you never produced any power. So your electricity production was kind of something you had on satellites or something like that. So nobody was having that on his roof. And now it became feasible, it became possible. It is actually the cheapest form of energy. So therefore, I'm very positive that we will have a massive boost of wind energy as well as solar PV energy. And now we are allowed to, to exchange between neighbors. And then making that feasible needs digital and needs wallets and needs self-sovereign identity and needs blockchain money and all that kind of stuff. I think Irene wanted to say something, right? No. Okay.
Not sure what Irene were you referring to, but
you.
Not my case.
I thought I saw your finger so going up, so something like that. So
no, not the case. Thank you, Thomas.
So any more question from the audience?
I have the feeling that you actually covered it all. So you explained the link with the climate change or climate action, in fact. Question on the energy consuming DLT technologies. And yeah, we had also the one on the whether the Gattaca system is the open source or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, seems to be clarified.
Good. Should we basically call it a day for us?
We can do that, or you can maybe all say your main, point or main summary of the session with regards to what is the future of the digital identity layer as a means to solve climate crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Irene should start.
So my wrap up for the talk would be climate change is something we cannot wait for someone else to solve. We need to do it ourselves. And by ourselves, I mean the entire population. Picking up on what I think was Irene saying before, if we do a small step all at the same time, we will go much farther than if one single organization does a big step. So if we want to do something as the commons, as united individuals, we need to rely on infrastructure to make that happen. Because in the end, individuals working together is nothing else but economic activity and transactions between those individuals. And unlike in a formal organization, those individuals have not today an infrastructure, a common infrastructure they can rely on to perform those transactions in a secure and transparent way. So moving from, okay, we need to work all together, we need a platform to work all together. Now we have a new technology that is disrupting apparently everything, and that from its philosophy can solve the problem that all of those joint individuals want to perform, which is peer-to-peer transactions and working together without a formal organization structure. But we still need the platform, we still need the infrastructure. Now, in order to perform those interactions between two different individuals, most of them, not every single transaction needs to be authenticated, but picking up with Thomas' example, if I want to sell energy from my roof, I want to be compensated. I want to get money from that energy I'm producing and selling to someone else. I might not even care who that person is, but I do want to get money for that energy production. So I need to authenticate myself in that platform and in a secure and trusted way, so the money is actually sent to me, to the true individual. So believe it or not, identity is really the linchpin for every single economic activity in the world. Authentication is crucial. And current authentication systems, current identity models are isolated, are siloed solutions for a specific industry, a specific geography. They don't talk to each other. And we ended up with 1,000 different identities in the physical, both in the physical and digital world. Again, what these decentralized identities can do for us is helping us build a single identity model, this identity layer that we need to access that commons infrastructure. So even if it seems too far away, the concept of identity from climate change, in reality is the most important enabler to make this happen.
Bravo.
Very nice.
Basically seconding everything Irene has said, and can only basically add on to re-underline that climate action is such a huge task for the entirety of the global population that we need all the efficiency and effectiveness we can get. And as she has just outlined, current systems, they all work. Nobody is basically criticizing people for the way things have been done, but they are no longer enough. And in order to increase both the effectiveness and the efficiency, as well as the speed, and reduce the cost on the other side, we need new options of interaction with each other. Digitalization and decentralization are the way to go. And here, as Irene has just beautifully explained and outlined, digital identities are crucial. And I think we all want to be self-sovereign when interacting in the digital sphere. And that is why SSI is the way to go and to help support the commons infrastructure.
Yeah, well, what to add, which is not a repetition. I think the very, very important part is to gain speed in the implementation. So we don't have the time to wait for somebody else to do it for us. We will see companies moving into the space, just as well as governments become more confident to maybe impose a carbon tax, or as we have just seen in Denmark, that they are actually shutting down the new exploration for gas and oil in the sea. So basically, we see that governments become more confident. We see that basically things are moving in the right direction on the company side, just as well as on the government side. But we also know that there is this kind of big decentralization kind of urgent need, that everybody is basically becoming own energy producer and interact economically, as Irene just pointed out, with his neighbors and with others in that space. And then we all come back to this activity where I want to know, who I'm paying for the power I'm getting. And wallets play a crucial role in that infrastructure. And because they are basically open access, and we have kind of pulled away the identity part from corporations, which assign you an identity to basically self-assigned identities, we are now in this position where we actually have a very, very nice fast on-ramp to get things going and solve this massive global issue of climate change. So that's hopefully not a repetition, but I thank everybody for helping getting this session so lively and so good working. So Irene and Irene, so trying to keep you as a part. Thank you for joining me in that session. Dasha, thank you for being our host here. And yes, let's keep on working. If anybody here is interested in one of the wallets we presented or other things what we're doing, just reach out to us. We are reachable through the conference, and yeah, look forward to help you also to make progress in combating climate change in your own realm. Thank you very much.